Life is a journey that feels unpredictable, a road that twists and turns with surprises and challenges that test our resolve and demand more from us than we often realize, but hidden beneath the surface of every day, beneath the emails, the meetings, the traffic, the endless scrolling, and the noise, there is a battle most people never recognize, a struggle that begins quietly in the mind and shapes the destiny of every choice, every decision, every action before we even notice it. The battle is not in the economy, it's not in the politics, it's not in the latest technology. The real battle is much closer, much more intimate, much more powerful, and it begins in the philosophy that guides each day, each thought, each habit, each belief. Even if we have never consciously examined it, even if we have never written it down, every person is carrying around a philosophy, a set of ideas and assumptions about work, about money, about health, about relationships, about time, about life itself, and whether we realize it or not, those beliefs are shaping our outcomes, determining our results silently and relentlessly, because a philosophy is like a seed planted in the soil of our mind, and as it grows it influences every action and reaction, every choice and every opportunity. If the seed is strong and wise, it produces fruit. If it is weak or neglected, it produces struggle and limitation. And yet most people inherit their philosophy by accident. They pick it up from parents, from friends, from television, from a society that often does not have their best interests in mind. They collect bits and pieces over the years. They absorb ideas without examination, without discernment, like clothes handed down without ever checking if they fit. And because the philosophy is invisible, it is easy to ignore. We can see someone who is overweight or broke or frustrated, but we rarely see the philosophy that created that reality. We rarely stop to consider that behind every paycheck, behind every health outcome, behind every relationship, there is a philosophy at work, whether good or bad, whether intentional or accidental. And when we fail to examine it, we drift. We allow circumstances to push us in whatever direction the wind blows, without a rudder, without a compass, and over time that drifting adds up. Little errors, ignored opportunities, wasted hours spent poorly, small choices made without thought accumulate like snowflakes until they create an avalanche, a reality we did not choose, a life we did not intend. And that is the danger of neglect, subtle in the moment, invisible in the beginning, and brutal over the years. But there is an alternative. There is a path to mastery, a way to take control, a way to design your philosophy instead of inheriting one by default, to decide consciously what principles you will live by, what ideas will govern your choices, what rules you will play by, what discipline you will adopt. And when you choose to design your philosophy, you take control, you stop drifting, you stop letting the wind decide, and you begin to steer your own course. A designed philosophy is like a blueprint for life. It gives structure and clarity, it provides guidance in the moments of doubt, and it transforms ordinary effort into extraordinary results. The difference between a life by default and a life by design is not luck or privilege or circumstance. It is not intelligence or talent. It is the ideas you choose to adopt, the habits you decide to cultivate, the standards you set for yourself. And it begins with a simple question: what do I believe about money, about work, about health, about time, about relationships? And do those beliefs serve me or do they betray me? The moment we ask that question, we begin the work of design. We begin to plant seeds intentionally, to water them with discipline, to cultivate them with persistence, to nurture them with reflection, to feed them with learning. And as those seeds grow over days, months, and years, they build a foundation, a structure, a philosophy that is strong enough to carry us through challenge and opportunity alike. And that philosophy compounds like money in the bank, each idea adding value, each choice increasing our power, each discipline shaping our destiny. Small habits repeated over time create massive results. Small errors repeated over time create massive regret, and the contrast between the two is the difference between a life of struggle and limitation and a life of clarity, progress, and fulfillment. The people who succeed consistently, who create extraordinary results, are not special, they are not uniquely talented, they are simply those who have taken the time to design their philosophy, those who have chosen ideas that work, those who have adopted discipline over neglect, responsibility over excuses, growth over stagnation, curiosity over complacency. And as we examine the lives of those who achieve, we see a pattern, we see principles applied consistently, we see decisions guided by an intentional philosophy, not by chance or emotion, not by fear or laziness, but by the deliberate choice to live according to ideas that serve them. And the beauty of this process is that it is available to anyone at any time, no matter your past, no matter your starting point, no matter your mistakes. You can begin today to examine your beliefs, to choose wisely, to adopt principles that work, to practice disciplines that create momentum, and to watch as the years reward your design over neglect, your intention over accident, your choice over drift. And imagine 5 years from now, imagine 10 years from now, imagine the person you could become if you began now, if you chose wisely, if you committed fully, if you designed your philosophy with care and courage and persistence. Imagine a life where your efforts produce results. Imagine a life where your health, your finances, your relationships, your time, your energy, your influence all reflect the quality of your ideas and the consistency of your discipline. Imagine a life where you are not at the mercy of circumstance, but a master of your own direction, and the power to create that life begins with understanding that philosophy matters more than talent, more than luck, more than opportunity, more than environment, because philosophy shapes action, action compounds into results, and results define the course of our lives. And yet most people never consciously build a philosophy. They drift, they follow the crowd, they react to circumstances, they assume life is something that happens to them, and in that assumption lies frustration and regret. And that is why this introduction exists, to make you aware, to awaken you to the silent battle, to show you that your philosophy is the foundation upon which your life is built, and that you have the power to examine it, choose it, shape it, design it, to begin today, to ask the hard questions, to replace what is weak, to cultivate what is strong, to adopt what is missing, and to watch as your life gradually transforms, because the seeds you plant now will grow into the harvest you reap in ahead. And the truth is that there is no shortcut, there is no instant success, there is no bypassing the work of design. The only path to extraordinary results is through intentional philosophy, deliberate choice, disciplined action, persistent effort, and the accumulation of small decisions over time. And that is what separates those who drift from those who rise, those who struggle from those who thrive, those who experience frustration from those who experience fulfillment. And if you are listening to this, if you are reading this now, if you are willing to consider that your philosophy matters, then you have already taken the first step toward transformation, the first step toward clarity, the first step toward a life that reflects your highest potential, the first step toward mastery of yourself and your results. And as we continue in this introduction, we will explore not only why philosophy matters, but how it shapes every aspect of your life, how small choices compound, how habits define outcomes, how ideas guide action, how discipline produces freedom, how responsibility multiplies opportunity, and how a life built on intention rather than accident can create not just success but significance, not just results but fulfillment, not just survival but thriving. And as you engage with these ideas, as you reflect on your own beliefs, as you question your assumptions, you will begin to see the patterns of your life, the invisible forces that have shaped your outcomes, and you will begin to realize that the only way to change your results is to change the foundation, the philosophy, the principles, the ideas that guide your every choice. And the invitation in front of you is clear, powerful, and simple. Begin now, begin intentionally, begin with awareness, begin with curiosity, begin with courage, begin with the commitment to design your philosophy, and in that commitment lies the path to a life of clarity, progress, and reward. And one day you'll realize that the real battle of life isn't out there in the economy or in politics or in all this new technology. The real battle is much closer. It's right here in the philosophy that guides each day. See, everyone has one, even if they've never written it down, even if they've never thought about it carefully. Everyone is carrying around a set of beliefs, ideas, assumptions, a philosophy about money, about work, about relationships, about health, about time, and that philosophy quietly shapes the course of their life. Now, hey race, the problem: most people inherited their philosophy by accident. They picked it up from the neighbors, from television, from a careless teacher, from a discouraged friend. They collected bits and pieces over the years, never questioned if it was serving them well, like picking up old hand-me-down clothes and just wearing them without ever asking if they fit. And because the philosophy is invisible, it's easy to ignore. If someone is overweight, we can see that. If someone is broke, we can see that, but what caused it, behind the condition, is a philosophy at work. Behind the paycheck is a philosophy. Behind the health or lack of it is a philosophy, yet most never stop to examine it. So what happens? They drift, they let circumstances decide. If the wind blows one way, they go with it. If it blows the other way, they go with that too. No rudder, no compass, and after years of drifting, they end up far from where they ever imagined they would be. They wonder, how did I get here? But the truth is, the philosophy they were living by decided it for them. The danger of neglect is subtle. No one fails overnight. Failure is small errors in judgment repeated every day. Ignoring good advice, wasting an hour here, an hour there, spending more than they earn, eating what they know isn't good, trusting the wrong voices, just little decisions guided by a weak philosophy. But add them up over 5 years, 10 years, and the gap is wide. It's a bit like a farmer planting seeds without paying attention. If you plant the wrong seeds by mistake, the ground won't argue. If you neglect planting altogether, nature will still grow something, and you'll have a field you didn't want, or even worse, a field full of poisonous weeds. Life works the same way. If you neglect to design your philosophy, you'll still harvest, but it won't be what you hope for. The problem is simple but profound. Most people never consciously build a philosophy that can take them where they want to go. They let it be shaped by chance instead of choice, and that is why they wake up frustrated year after year, wondering why progress seems so slow, why opportunities seem to slip by, why the results don't match the effort. That's the problem of philosophy by default instead of a philosophy by design. If the problem is drifting on a philosophy by default, then what's the alternative? It's to build one by design, to sit down and consciously decide what ideas you will live, by what rules you will play, by what principles will govern your choices. That's the flip side. On one side is neglect, letting chance and circumstance shape your thinking. On The other side is intention, choosing a philosophy strong enough to carry you to where you want to go. See, a sound personal philosophy is like a set of blueprints. Imagine a builder who shows up to the site without a plan. He's got bricks, he's got lumber, he's got tools, but no design. What will the house look like? The answer is it will look like a mess. Hell, build one wall here, another wall there, tear something down, try again, and never really create what he wanted. That's how most people live their lives. Plenty of effort, but no clear design. Now, what about the builder who studies a set of blueprints? Every wall, every window, every door has been thought through ahead of time. When he picks up a hammer, he knows why the effort is the same, but the results are completely different. That's what happens when you build a personal philosophy by choice. The actions are deliberate, the habits are intentional, and the long-term results are predictable. A strong philosophy says work harder on yourself than you do on your job. It says don't wish it were easier, wish you were better. It says success isn't something you chase, it's something you attract by the person you become. That kind of philosophy changes everything. Instead of drifting with the wind, you set the sail. The wind is the same for all of us. The economy is the same, taxes are the same, opportunities rise and fall, but the difference is some people adjust their sails, and some just drift. The ones who adjust, those are the ones who took time to build a philosophy that says no matter what the wind does, I'll find a way to get where I am going. It's a choice. You can choose to design your philosophy around principles that work. You can choose ideas that have stood the test of time. You can choose discipline over neglect, responsibility over excuses, growth over stagnation. And when you do, you'll see life respond differently, not right away, but inevitably. The alternative is clear. A philosophy by default produces frustration, regret, and wasted potential. A philosophy by design produces clarity, progress, and eventual success. One road leads to disappointment, the other leads to fulfillment. The difference is not in how smart you are, or where you were born, or who your parents were. The difference is in the set of ideas you decide to live by. That is the alternative: drift or design, default or choice, neglect or discipline. And every day, whether you know it or not, you are moving down one of those roads. Throughout my years of speaking on the subject of personal development and philosophy, I've seen so many examples that prove over and over again that your results rely heavily on how you build your personal philosophy. I once knew a man who worked hard every day. He punched the clock faithfully, never late, never missing a shift, but his philosophy was this: if I just keep showing up, things will somehow get better. That's all he believed. He didn't study after work, didn't learn new skills, didn't save much. He thought loyalty and time alone would guarantee advancement. 20 years later, he was still in the same position, earning the same pay, frustrated and bitter. His philosophy was effort is enough, but life doesn't pay for effort, it pays for results. His philosophy betrayed him. Now, around that same time, I met a young woman who decided early that she would not just work at her job, she would work on herself. She read a book every month. She asked questions, sought mentors, took notes. She saved 10% of every paycheck, no matter how small. Her philosophy was, if I grow, my income will grow with me. If I discipline myself, my future will reward me. 10 years later, she had advanced 3 times in her company, started her own small side business, and had more options than she ever dreamed. Her philosophy worked for her instead of against her. I am telling you, there was a man who once told me money is the root of all evil. That was his philosophy. So what did he do? He pushed money away. He never saved, never invested, never learned, and of course he stayed broke. Now, what would happen if he realized that money could be a tool? What if he realized that it can build, it can bless, it can create? What if his philosophy made him curious, disciplined, careful? I am not a gambling man, but I'd be willing to bet that he'd end up wealthy, and not just in money, but in influence and the ability to help others see how it works. 2 people, same circumstances, yet their philosophies put them on different paths. One path leads to scarcity, the other to abundance. One leads to bitterness, the other to joy, and it all started with a simple idea. They chose to live by. The stories change, but the principle never does. Philosophy makes the difference. The true test of philosophy isn't what happens in a week or a month, it's what happens over years, because philosophy compounds just like money in the bank. Ideas gather interest. If they are good ideas, they build a fortune of results. If they are poor ideas, they build a mountain of regret. 2 young men start out the same age, same background, same job. One believes life is a matter of luck, so he spends freely, avoids responsibility, does just enough to get by. The other believes life responds to discipline, so he saves, learns, pushes a little harder each year. At age 25, you can't see much difference. At 35, you begin to notice. At 45, the gap is enormous. One is trapped in debt, restless and resentful. The other has choices, resources, and influence. Same years, different philosophies, opposite results. One person adopts the philosophy that what they eat doesn't matter. They say, Little won't hurt. Another adopts the philosophy that the body is the only place they have to live, so it deserves care. 10 years later, the difference is visible in energy and confidence in how they carry themselves. 20 years later, it is visible in the doctor's report. The long-term consequence of a weak philosophy is subtle in the beginning, then brutal in the end. Small errors in judgment, skipping a book, ignoring exercise, spending instead of saving don't seem like much today, but multiplied by 1,000 days they add up to a destiny. On the other hand, small disciplines, reading a chapter, walking around the block, setting aside a little money don't seem like much either, but multiplied by 1,000 days they build a life that looks almost miraculous. Here is the truth: life is not unfair, life is exact. It measures every step, every choice, every idea. It rewards those who design their philosophy and punishes those who neglect it, not immediately but inevitably, and what makes it difficult is that consequences are delayed. If eating a donut brought instant illness, no one would eat a donut. If skipping a book robbed your wallet, tomorrow you'll never miss a book. But because the price is paid years later, people assume there is no connection. That's the trap. The connection is always there, the results always arrive. So, when you see someone successful, don't just look at their bank account or their lifestyle, look at the philosophy that built it. And when you see someone struggling, don't just look at their circumstances, look at the philosophy that allowed it. Because the truth is, we all live with the harvest of the seeds we plant, whether planted on purpose or by neglect. The long-term consequences are simple to state: a philosophy by default leads to regret, a philosophy by design leads to reward, and the years will make that contrast crystal clear. So the choice now rests with each of us. Will it be a philosophy by chance or a philosophy by choice? That's the invitation, because no one escapes philosophy. The only question is whether yours will serve you or betray you. Think of it this way: every day you step onto a path. That path is guided by the ideas you carry. If your ideas say it doesn't matter, then you drift. If your ideas say it'll take responsibility, then you climb. Same day, same hours, but different destination. And the best time to choose is now, not next year, not someday, not when things get easier, because later only multiplies the drift. Now is the time to sit quietly and ask, what do I believe about work, about money, about health, about time, about relationships, and do those beliefs serve me, or are they quietly working against me? That's the beginning of design. You don't need to throw everything away, you just need to examine it. Some of your ideas are strong, keep them. Some are weak, replace them. And some are missing altogether, go get them, because life doesn't require perfection, but it does require correction, and philosophy is where correction begins. Maybe your family never taught you the importance of saving. You can choose to adopt that philosophy now. Maybe your friends never encouraged you to read and learn. You can choose to start that habit now. Maybe you believed until now that circumstances control you. You can choose today to believe that your choices are stronger than your circumstances. That's the invitation, and understand choosing doesn't mean it changes overnight. No, philosophy works like the seasons. You plant it, you water it, you cultivate it. Over time it grows into a harvest. So